Yo, what is up, YouTube? James Baek here today, a 2020 international champion, as well as third place at the most recent world championship back in 2019. Yes, I'm advised to say that to anyone who doesn't know my content. And today we're going to be going over some more Pokemon analysis with new Pokemon from the Crown Tundra in Regidrago. Now, before that, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a funny story. So I recorded this video already, but the thing is I pronounced this Pokemon as Regidraco because I kept thinking it was a C and I never noticed a G until I was about to upload the video. So RIP me, that's why there was no upload yesterday, because I had to re-record this video. So yeah, a little bit extra effort. But if you do enjoy this kind of content, be sure to leave a like down below, as it really does help out my channel and it does mean a lot to me. Leave a comment down below what you think about this Pokemon. It really does help. And while you're down there, if you're subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button, or just double check you hit that subscribe button if you think you're subscribed, because sometimes YouTube unsubscribes you from channels. I don't know why that's the case. It just happens. And if you're new, I do a lot of competitive Pokemon content, from high level guides to gameplay with high level analysis, commentary, and yeah, a lot of these and a lot more things coming in the future. So if you are interested in high level VDC content, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It really does help out. But let's get into the analysis. So we got Regidrago, a dragon type, a pure dragon type with the ability Dragon's Maw, which multiplies this thing's attacking stat by 1.5 when using a dragon type attack, which is pretty good for its, because it doesn't have the best attack stats, but we'll go over that in right now actually. So when we look over its stats, 200 base HP, which is pretty high, as you can see, uninvested. 275 just with no investment at all, and if we invested, it's 307, which is pretty good. I mean, let's see, let's compare it to some Pokemon. Chansey, 250, which is already pretty high, and then like maybe Cresselia, for instance, 120. So this thing's like 1.8 or something higher than Cresselia, which is kind of insane. I don't know math, you can do the math, but I don't really care. The thing is, this thing has a really high base HP stat. Its physical and its special attack stat are both 100, which is actually pretty low for an attacking stat, but of course with Dragon's Maw, that is at least helping that out. Base 50 in both defenses, which isn't great. It's actually pretty low, so yeah, it's not that great. However, if it's base 200 HP, it'll be able to at least take 1 or 2 attacks. So that is at least a positive note. Even if it does have the best defenses, its HP stat is carrying it. And then base 80 speed, which is kind of average, and it kind of hurts this Pokemon in a bit, but I'll explain that in a little bit. So yeah, those are its stats right there. So let's get into the moves real quick. So as we can see from its move pool, it's really not that great, just like its counterpart Regieleki. As you can see, its coverage is pretty poor, especially for a dragon type. Normally dragon types actually get decent coverage, but this one, not really at all. So if you notice that its offensive moves aren't that great, its support moves aren't that great, it just doesn't really have many options when we think about it. However, there is one move that stands out, which is the signature move of Regidrago, which is Dragon Energy, which is a 150 base power spread move that is based off the user's HP. So if you're at max HP, this thing will be 150 base power move. It's going to be spread target, so you have to anticipate spread when because of doubles. So it's going to be 75% of 150 against both Pokemon, which is still pretty strong. It is pretty strong, and then it weakens over time when you take damage as this Pokemon's HP becomes lower and lower. So yeah, it's a pretty good move. If you know about Water Spout Eruption, it's very, very solid, and this is the move you definitely want to use for Regidrago. Signature move hits really hard, especially if you know the opponent for some reason doesn't have a fair steel type. It does hurt. It does hurt, especially with Dragon's Maw and base special attack stat, which, as we saw, Dragon's Maw increases by 1.5 when using a dragon move, 120 base power, or 120 stat wise, 1.5 of that, 180, but that's with no investment. But if we make it to the max without modest nature, 152, that's gonna be 76, I believe, gain. So that's like 228, and a base power 150 move. That's gonna hurt quite a lot, especially if we go modest. So yeah, And that's a pretty strong move to have, but otherwise, as you can see, its coverage still really not that great. Its support moves, as we see, it doesn't get much coverage. Like Ancient Power and Hyper Beam are pretty much your only other special attack moves that could really run on this Pokemon. Otherwise, yeah, you have physical moves, which is actually better of coverage wise. It gets Crunch, Hammer Arm, Giga Impact, and I guess you could run Breaking Swipe on a support set, Thunder Fang, Fire Fang, and then it's mostly got I guess Screen, Slide Screen, and Reflect as support options, but really not much. It really doesn't get much, unfortunately. Like, its support moves are pretty bad for it too, because I think this Pokemon isn't really good for support Pokemon, because with Light Screen and Reflect, those are trying to reduce the damage you take, and that means you're going to be taking damage. So I don't think there's really a point of having this as a Light Screen Reflect mon when you're probably going to be using Dragon Energy, which is the main staple of this Pokemon. It's like the reason why you run it probably is because, you know, you want to use Dragon Energy, you want to use it. But the thing is, if you're using Light Screen or Reflect, you're trying to take damage while using that move, and what happens then is you're basically delaying the inevitable of you just taking damage and making that Dragon Energy even weaker. So yeah, I don't think there's really a point of this Pokemon being a support Pokemon. I do think it should be offensive. So let's talk about the two sets I came up with that are probably the most viable sets. So I do think that the set is probably one of the weaker sets. It's a physical set. You might be wondering, why are you using physical? And I think it's like, if it's viable as it's usable, I gotta showcase it. So yeah, Dragon's Maw, of course, making this stat pretty high, making it pretty high when using a Dragon type move in Dragon Claw. And you know, if you Dragon Dance up and then spam like Max Dragon, it'll hurt quite a bit. So yeah, that's the reason why we have to set. Going Life Orb, we're going at 252 speed, Adamant Nature. The reason is you kind of need all the attack you can get. I think you could go Jolly and outspeed Dragapult, I guess, which actually could be better. I think Jolly or Adamant work too. Of course, you do lose on quite a bit of attack, especially with how Dragon's Mom work. But I guess like Jolly or Adamant could work for this set. I do think this is, again, the least optimal set, but I will showcase it since it is a viable set. Because, you know, you get to hit hard with Dragon Claw, you can Dragon Dance up, you can spam Max Knuckle, I guess, but I don't think it's really worth it. The thing about this set is, you know, Intimidate's quite a big thing in VGC. You got a lot of Intimidate Pokemon, and the thing is, Intimidate really hurts Disability Dragon's Maw because it's based off the stat and not the actual base power of the move. So yeah, it's gonna hurt. Intimidate's just gonna destroy this set. Like, it slows it down immensely. And even then, you pretty much only can spam a Dragon, and then like if they have a Fairy or Steel out on the field, it's gonna be hard because this Pokemon cannot touch Fairies for its life. Or like, yeah, it can't really touch Fairies for its life. It can't hit Steels for its, I guess, Hammer Arm and Fire Fang, but like, unless you're hitting something for 4 times effective, not really that helpful. I guess maybe you could catch a Tyranitar off guard if they try switching Tyranitar and you Hammer Arm it. That'd be pretty funny. But otherwise, yeah, probably not the best set for it, but it's definitely a potential set because, you know, it does get these options. So there's that set, but this is the main set you probably should run. It is going to be the special sets. And yeah, I'm just giving out the best moves right here. I think you definitely consist of Dragon Energy for sure. You run Dragon Pulse. I think you run Protect potentially on one of these sets. Or like you run one of these two as well. You could also run Screens, but I don't think, again, I don't think Screens is that good. I think you could also run Dragon Dance on this kind of set because like what you could do potentially is just like try to make this thing faster. You don't even care about the attack boost. You just want the Dragon Dance so you get the speed boost. Because like the thing about 80 speed, which we talked about earlier, is it's not really that great because it's such a mid ground and doesn't like hard commit to anything. And by that I mean, when you use a move like Eruption or Water Spout, and in this case Dragon Energy, you usually want to outspeed your opponent in some sort of fashion so you can make sure you don't take damage and get the full base power of the move off to do as much damage as possible. So with Dragon Energy, you definitely want to do that. But the thing about Regidraco or Drago, I keep calling it Draco for some reason, it yeah, it's not really slow enough for Trick Room, and I do think Trick Room is probably more reliable with this Pokemon because it's base eating hard Trick Room, which is actually still pretty decently fast, at least if we compare to the other Trick Room mons like what's running around right now, Torkoal, Glastrier, Stack Attack, for instance. Like it's gonna be outsped in Trick Room, so that's a pretty big problem. And then even in Tailwind, it's not like the fastest Pokemon. The thing about this Pokemon as well is I think you have to win Tailwind or Trick Room, because Icy Wind, as well as you know, stuff like Icy Wind, Electro Web, and Max Airstream, like they can help. But if we look at, like, let's say Max Special Attack Regidraco or Regidrago, I gotta stop calling it Regidraco. 132 isn't exactly that fast. It doesn't outspeed Dragapult unless you go Timid, and that means you're reducing your damage on Dragon Energy. And you know, that damage could be pretty important. And you know, there are a lot of faster threats right now, especially with like a Regieleki running and like some Choice Scarf Mons. So yeah, this thing still can struggle quite a bit. So that is the downside of using Regidrago. But yeah, I mean, it still hits really hard with its Dragon Energy. So if we talk about moveset, Dragon Energy for sure. I think you run Dragon Pulse. I think you could run Protect, but you don't have to. But I think it should have Protect, because you want to make sure, you know, you put Regidrago in a good position, because you want to make sure you can get the powerful Dragon Energies off. And yeah, so I think you have Protect, and then you have one of the coverage moves. I guess you could have a support move or Dragon Dance. I think those could work too. Not exactly sure. But yeah, I think it depends. Your entire spread is going to depend on what kind of mode you're going. So if you're going the Trick Room route, you definitely go min speed, and I think you would invest in one of the defenses, because since this Pokemon already has a really high base HP stat, it's usually better to invest in the defenses instead of the HP, since it affects the calcs better. It's why you often see like spreads with like Pokemon such as like Drifblim or let's see, Drifblim or Chansey sometimes. Well, I guess Chansey always runs max HP, max defense, but trying to think about other Pokemon. Sometimes you saw Cresselia with more defense investment than HP investment, and that's because it just affected the calcs better. So yeah, since HP, like, you increase technically both defenses, but they're like, if you increase the actual defense stats, it improves the calcs a bit better than if you were just running HP, because HP grows slowly, reducing the damage from both sides, while if you invest in defense, it helps out a lot more. So that's why I think you would invest more in defenses. Maybe you run a bit of HP, but I think it doesn't really need it since it already has base 200. It's pretty high, so I think you would invest in one of the defenses. And then of course, if you're going for the Tailwind route, you definitely go for the speed for sure. And I think you always run as much special attack as possible. I always think you run max or near max, because you want Dragon Energy to hit hard, right? That's the kind of point of using this Pokemon. So yeah, there's that. So let's talk about items. So the thing about this Pokemon is you don't want to run Life Orb, obviously. I think it would be pretty bad to run a Life Orb on this kind of Pokemon. I guess you could run stuff like I think Dragon Fang is the best item, because of course it's really only using dragon moves. I don't think you're really using any other moves with this Pokemon. I don't think Policy is worth it. Defensive items could be worth it, like Seeds, for instance. Grassy Seed, Psychic Seed, Electric Seed, Misty Seed. I think they could work with its defense stat. I think Leftovers is actually pretty good, because I feel like if you're going to use this Pokemon, I think you have to use it with like a Tapu that isn't Feeny, because you definitely need to beat Feeny, because Feeny shuts this Pokemon down hard. Like, Fairies shut this down in hard in general, but like Feeny makes it so it's basically useless on the field with the misty terrain. So I do think having Rillaboom and Tapu Koko are better, and having on this team. And with Rillaboom, you could get like Leftovers Grassy Terrain Recovery, which helps with the Dragon Energy damage output. So yeah, I would 100% run, advise potentially Leftovers, as it can definitely be good. Berries are fine too. I think bulky berries are better with Regidrago, because it's pretty slow regardless. Choice Specs is an option. I don't think it's that great. I don't think Choice Scarf is that great, but maybe you could catch a Dragapult off guard. Potentially, I don't know. Otherwise, yeah, I don't think its items are really that big, but I do think this one has better options for defensive items, or like Dragon Fang to be its offensive item. But yeah, that's what I think about items. So I think Regidrago is you know, good potentially. Do I think it'll be common? So here's the thing. I think Regidrago unfortunately is pretty much useless in like a high level competitive state, because of the fact that just Tapu Fini is, if you don't know, Tapu Fini is the #1 Pokemon right now. It's the #1 usage rank right now. So yeah, Regidrago unfortunately is going to struggle a lot against Tapu Fini. You need a really dedicated team that can handle one, fairies in general, and two, especially Tapu Fini. And like even then, this Pokemon really kind of struggles to get going, especially like if it's a steel Pokemon next to Fini. Like, yeah, it's gonna be really hard to set up anyway. And yeah, it's just like it doesn't really add much value to a team. Like the only thing it really has of value is like a really powerful spread move, right, with Dragon. And it doesn't have any form of speed control. It doesn't really offer coverage. It doesn't really help with stats because you don't really want to try switching into this Pokemon because you want to use it as offensively as possible, Dragon Energy. So I think in general that doesn't offer much to a team. So yeah, like roles wise, like they're definitely better Dragon types. So yeah, I don't think it's going to be too common. It is very niche though, and I think it is a threat. Don't get me wrong, this thing can be threatening under the right conditions. Like Dragon Energy hits hard, like Water Spout and Eruption. This thing hits hard, especially with its ability, like, and a boosting item. So it can hit hard, it can do well in certain situations, but overall it's very hard to set up for those conditions, I feel like, in high level gameplay. And yeah, it's definitely a tough mon to use, especially like a lot of fairies, as fairies are very common right now. So yeah, that's the problem with Regidrago. And I do think it'll probably be, I wouldn't want to say useless with Tapu Fini, but I know I'm gonna probably thumbnail it that anyway. So it kind of is with Tapu Fini. Like maybe if this thing could, you know, maybe provide a little bit more roles to a team, it can help out. Maybe if it got like Trick Room or something, or Tailwind or something that could benefit a team, yeah, I could see people bring it. But thing doesn't offer speed control. Its support moves don't really help itself. Yeah, it just doesn't really provide much other than like a heavy hitting dragon move. So that's my basis on Regidrago. I think I covered everything from basically your move sets to your stats to EV spreads to items, and basically I covered everything, including partners. I think you do want to run like Rillaboom, Tapu Bulu, Tapu Koko for sure. You basically need hard hitting against steels and fairies for this thing to survive, and you need some kind of form of speed control for sure, because otherwise this Pokemon's still going to struggle. But yeah, that's going to be my analysis on Regidrago. If you did like it, please leave a like down below, as it really does help out my channel. And again, hit that subscribe button while you're down there and leave a comment. Let me know what you think about Regidrago. I think it has a really cool design. I mean, that's one thing it has going for it. I mean, reminds me of the Dragon Gym leader from Black and White and Black and White 2. Those puzzles, that's what it reminds me of. I mean, also I think Victory Road, if I remember right. If I am right, maybe, I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below. But otherwise, yeah, that's gonna be it. Let me know what other Pokemon you would love to see me do analysis of. And yeah, that's gonna be it. Have a great day, people, and until we battle again, I'll catch y'all later.